Greetings, everyone. I'm Taisha Essex back with another great video. Tonight, I'm joined with our brother Willie Cartwright of the Save to Sane channel here on YouTube. How are you doing tonight, Brother Cartwright?
I am
Oh,
good. I am
here we
good.
go.
How are you?
I am doing great, and to our
Can you hear
family
me?
that's joining us,
Okay.
yes, it works. It's just a little bit of a delay, and to our family that's joining us live or watching the replay, thank you so much for joining us. Sorry we missed you last week, but if you heard, if you're also here in Georgia, we had some crazy storms come through the area. We had tornadoes. It was wild. Are you okay up in your location, or how was it for you last week?
Yeah, I think us being in kind of we were north of you, so you guys got the brunt of it. We were fine. We just got a lot of rain. I think north and south of Atlanta proper actually got the worst of it. We just got a lot of rain here in the Atlanta metro area. So we're good. We were
I
good.
I tell you what, like the tornadoes reveal just how cheaply the houses are being made nowadays. Like, I want you to pay $300,000 for a
Yeah.
house that is no better than a U-Haul moving box. That I'm seeing the damage was crazy, and it
Yeah.
was so funny. I'm not sure if you saw my Instagram story. I posted a story about this church. I think it's like somewhere on the north side of Macon. The steeple actually fell down. I was laughing my butt off because they're like, oh, God's going to rebuild. I'm like, God knocked it down.
Exactly. It's just it's crazy. I mean, the storms reveal some of the most asinine statements and comments from believers. I mean, I've heard everything. I mean, you see total destruction, and they'll walk into a place, 22 people killed, the building totally destroyed, and they'll find a Bible that is still intact, and they swear that's a sign from God. I'm like, what about the 22 people killed and the total devastation of the building and the rest of the buildings in the city? I don't get it, but I've had these discussions and debates with people as well. I actually lost a lifelong friend over that. He actually
Wow.
unfriended me, stopped being my friend because something similar, a natural disaster had occurred. And a handful of people died, and he was all on social media thanking God for it not being more people. And I said to him, "What about the six? I think it was 6 or 8 people. It's down in Florida. 6 or 8 people." I said, "What about the families and the friends and the 6 people that died doing this? I mean, where was
Hmm.
God in all this?" And he just kind of lost it. He was done with me at that point. I said, "Where's your God with these 6 people?" I said, "They got families too and friends as well. That they're not. I mean, that's insensitive to say thank God that it wasn't more. It could have been more, but thank God it wasn't.
It was
That's
one too
extremely
many. It
insensitive.
shouldn't have happened.
Exactly. One is too many. So yeah, especially if
Exactly.
you're giving God the credit for saving or not allowing it to be worse, then give him he's to blame for the 6 that did die.
Exactly. But thank you so much for joining us again. We posted previous live videos of us discussing, insane things that believers post on Facebook. Oh my gosh, I've been seeing some stuff this past week. But tonight we're going to talk about Easter. This is it's a few days before this weekend where, people come out of hibernation, especially black people come out of hibernation to show off their best, and it's another one of those rituals that we engage in. And when you ask someone like, hey, why do you observe this, we know that certain stuff didn't happen, and or some people, in my case coming up, we couldn't afford to observe it, but we still broke our backs to do it. But people lack the knowledge of the history of Easter. They lack a reason why they do it, and they give this excuse, well, we do it for the kids. And we're gonna talk about that later on. But tonight we're going to discuss the history of I'm sorry, the history of Easter, the lack of evidence of the crucifixion and the resurrection. We're not going to also tie in the insanity behind those who are so moved about, oh my gosh, the passion of the Christ, the suffering, and wearing the crime scene. But when you mention, the plight of black people, the lynchings that continue on to this day, they just like shrug it off. So we're gonna talk about that. So Brother Cartwright, coming from your book, you mentioned something. You talked, a lot about your mother and how she was the source of, religion and your indoctrination into Christianity. Can you tell us anything that you recall about, observing Easter, the sunrise services and stuff like that?
Yeah, I was we was talking earlier before we came on, but I remember Easter. To all Christians, Easter is the day. It is the foundation of the faith. It is without the resurrection, none of that. But I remember, and this is kind of funny, but my mother would get up and for sunrise service early. She would get up before the sun was up so she could see the sun come up. And I remember as a little child, eventually one day asking her why did she do that, and she actually told my sister and I that when she got up on Easter before the sun came up, she could see the sun jumping up and down in just joy because it's Resurrection Sunday, as they call it, as some people call it. So she literally told me this, and I didn't really think nothing of it. It's your mom, you young, you believe anything she say. And as I got older, I said, okay, come on, Dad, that don't really make any sense. But that was one of her things. She got up early enough to watch the sun come up because she swore that the sun jumped up and down, the sun went up and down. But on a serious note, this is Easter. This is the Christian. This is the most important holiday in Christianity, right? This is the resurrection of your Savior, so to speak. And so the things that we touch on, Taisha mentioned a lot of the things that we're going to talk about, but we also need to make sure we understand how important it is that we're having this discussion, because without this moment, without this resurrection, there is no Christianity faith. There is no Jesus, at least the divinity part of Jesus. And so Christians take this holiday extremely serious. I remember as a child getting these Easter speeches to do, and God forbid you messed up an Easter speech. I don't care what age you were. I mean, it was like the end of the world if you didn't say these Easter speeches correctly. So yeah, so those are the things some of the things we talk about, and I think it's important because you have people who really don't know the origins of Easter. They understand that the Easter eggs and the bunny, that stuff is not what they're supposed to be celebrating, but they actually don't understand the origins of even where the Easter bunny came from. Why? Because that's fertility, and that that holiday is actually pagan, and one of the pagan goddesses that was celebrated uh, in Easter within outside of Christianity before Christianity was the goddess of fertility. That's how you got rabbits and Easter eggs. That's the symbolism for that. And so most Christians either don't know the origins of Easter, don't know that it evolved from pagan holidays or pagan festivals, or they know and they don't care, because to them the most important thing is that this is the day that Jesus was resurrected. And so we know that this day is not the same day every year. It is the first Sunday following the spring equinox, I think, or whatever it's called. And so it rotates. So it's not the same day every year. So your risen Savior died on a specific day, and then he rose on a specific day. But year in and year out, the celebration of that day that marks that day is different days every year, depending on springtime or whatever. So yeah, so we'll get into all of that. Interesting topic, interesting conversation, and we'll go from there. We'll take some questions and we'll take some comments. But yeah, so we'll go from there. Taisha, anything with you?
That is great on the history of Easter, because it's a really confusing weekend. You have so much going on. You have, okay, I remember as a child, I watched an episode of the Rugrats. I was, one of those Nickelodeon children. So I remember, the episode on Passover. Also, what else we had? Like the resurrection, we had Easter. It's just a bunch of confusion happening this weekend. It's like, what in the world is going on? And once I left, the Bible, and I'm like, okay, there's so many other books to read. There's so many other things to research, which is a failure and some of our families is that they say, okay, this one book is the truth, and then they hear stuff from everybody else. They fail to read anything out of it that challenges that belief. And so, like you said, research where these holidays, these, how Dr. Baryshego called them holidays, where they come from. So I'm coming from this book here. It's called Ceremonies of the Seasons. And you mentioned one thing about, exchanging of the eggs, and you just see how much it's just, everything is so commingled. It's a big, I don't want to say a bad word, but it's like it's a catastrophe. So when it comes to the exchanging of the eggs, I'm just going to briefly come from, like I said, this book here, Ceremonies of the Season by Jennifer Cole, and I'm on page 43, and it was saying how the Saxon goddess, what is it, Oster? If I'm pronouncing it, I've never seen this name before in my life, but if y'all want to research it,
Ishtar, is it? How's it
it's
spelled?
Eostre.
Okay, yeah, that's the
Ostre
that's the
found a wounded,
European version
yes.
of it. Yeah.
And so it says that here, she found a wounded bird and transformed it into a hare so that it could survive the winter. The hare found that it could lay eggs, so it decorated these eggs each spring and left them as offerings to the goddess. It later went into the Iranians give the gift of eggs dyed red to mark the New Year's first day. And I know some people say, yes, spring is the new year, so they talk about that as when things come into bloom. Then ancient Egyptians, Greeks, and Romans have also celebrated spring with colored eggs. Traditionally, eggs were dyed red to symbolize Christ's blood, and red is also associated with fertility and rebirth. With fertility and rebirth, there's nothing disgusting about that. Women, we have the eggs, and if they're not fertilized, they reveal themselves in a certain color. So you just see how things are like really tied together. It's like, okay, what makes sense? You know what I'm saying? What the hell? And that brings us to when we think about European holidays, it's a lot of bloodshed, and that leads us to the resurrection. And can you talk to us about the lack of evidence of the resurrection, leading us to talking about how people are so caught up in the rapture of the resurrection, but they're very disconnected to the plight and the atrocities that have occurred to their own people, especially just talking about us Black people.
Yeah, so let's be clear. Let's begin with the actual crucifixion of Jesus, which occurred. He died on a Friday evening, and supposedly stayed dead for 3 days. Well, if you go from Friday evening to Sunday morning, that's not 3 days. So that's the first issue, and I think all of us at some point we've been in church and we've heard this 3 days, and then we kind of did the numbers in our heads. And wait a minute, even in a 24-hour period, if I go from Friday evening to Saturday evening, to Sunday morning, you're basically talking about what, 36 hours or so. You're not talking about 3-4 days, which would be 72 hours, if I'm not mistaken. And so, we kind of get it twisted like that. So that's the first. That's the first thing. Secondly, if you read the Bible, there are different accounts of what happened when Jesus was resurrected. If you read the Gospels, the Gospels have different versions of what happened. Everything from who saw Jesus first, how many people, told the rest of the city or whatever, who saw him first. So the Gospels can't even agree with what happened with the resurrection. Also, those of you who know your Bible and know the story, the resurrection story, there were things that happened, during the resurrection. I mean, even his death and resurrection, that during that period of time, there was supposed to have been, during the death, there's supposed to have been 3 hours of total darkness in the middle of the day. In his resurrection, there was also supposed to have been graves opening up and people walking around in the city, dead people, the walking dead, literally. And so and then I think also there was an earthquake that's supposed to have happened. And so we think about these things outside of the Bible. The people, the cultures in that time period, were absolute, um, without a doubt, marvelous historians. They wrote and documented everything, whether it be the Romans or the Babylonians or the Assyrians, whatever, or the Egyptians. They documented everything and wrote everything. And there is absolutely nothing in the writings contemporaneously of the resurrection outside of the Bible. There is nothing in Roman history, Egyptian history, Assyrian, Babylonian, whatever, all the other regions and areas there. There is nothing written. So the question I always ask to Christians, you mean to tell me that if this man rose from the dead, the dead walked around, there were 3 hours of darkness in the middle of the day with no apparent excuse, and there was an earthquake, and none of this was documented as it was happening. None of this was documented as this was happening outside of the Bible. That, at a minimum, should make you think, should make you pause, should make you want to go and do the research for yourself, and then to have questions. At a minimum, have questions about, did this stuff really happen? I mean, there is no, absolutely. You can Google, you can do your research, you can get books, you can, there is absolutely zero evidence outside of the Bible of any of these events, including the resurrection itself. Christians will make all kind of excuses. He went back up to heaven. No one was around, so who's going to see it? I mean, there's no body. The so-called evidence that people have found or say they found has all been shown to be false and fake evidence. The shroud of Torah was supposed to have been the clothing that covered him. Someone found it or said they found it, and once the research was done on it, it was discovered that it was from somewhere around 12th or 13th century. So none of that is original. There's no original pieces to the cross, and none of this, absolutely nothing. And I find it extremely hard to believe that these type of events, these are once in a lifetime, not even a lifetime. This is once. These events have never ever happened and will never ever happen to anyone anytime in our history. And you mean to tell me that when they supposedly happened, that there was no one nowhere that wrote this information down or accounted for this information or notated this information, any of the events? So that in itself is reason enough to kind of doubt this stuff if you don't already doubt it. And if you are a devout, diehard Christian, I would encourage you to just ask questions. Go to your pastor, go to someone who you think is very knowledgeable in this area, and simply ask them the question. Find a PhD, find a person who went to seminary school, a pastor, whoever. Ask them these questions. Show me some type of unbiased, contemporaneous proof, evidence of stuff that we say happened in the Bible around the death, the crucifixion, and the resurrection of this person we know to be Jesus Christ. So yeah, so that's so we can, I guess, we can pause there. And Taisha, you have anything to add, or we can take a couple of questions before we get into some more stuff. But yeah.
Absolutely. So that just like really broke it down, because these are the teachings, that we should have heard in our places of worship. But of course, you can't mess with the money. We want to have a place where people can gather, and we just repeat some stuff, make you feel good, and do your thing. Shout out to everybody who is in the chat. I scanned really quick to see if we had any questions. And we have some chick named Star. How are you doing, sis? She said, I hated Easter Sunday. I always got my ears burned up the night before, getting my hair pressed and curled.
Yeah.
Yes, that actually takes us into like our next session, or our next subtopic on like the rituals. And before we talk about that, there are 4 different stories for Christ's resurrection. Unbelievable. So can you talk about
Absolutely.
that for a second?
Absolutely. Yeah, I mentioned it earlier. If you go to the Gospels, the 4 Gospels, there are different stories and different accounts of the resurrection. As I mentioned before, everything from who saw the empty tomb first, how many people were there, how many people were told, the total number in the group, What happened right after that? I mean, if you read the stories, the accounts are completely different. And it's as this person said, there are four different stories. And so one other thing, hypnosis is hypnotist 232 mentioned Josephus. Josephus is one of the two individuals that people will mention as outside evidence of Jesus Christ or things that happened in the Bible. And I think we covered this a little bit a couple of weeks ago in one of the talks that we did. Understand that Josephus, first of all, wasn't even born until after Jesus died. His writings were decades after supposedly events. And so some of the stuff has been deemed fraudulent. But it's nothing in Josephus' writings that is proof of the existence of Jesus Christ that can be used as proof. So again, he didn't live during the time of Jesus Christ. He wrote many decades after the events, and the information that he got, the small amount of information that he got with mentioning Jesus, he got it from somebody else who got it from somebody else who got it from somebody else. So imagine if you would, an event taking place before you were born and you writing about it 40, 50, 60 years after the event took place. You wasn't there to see it firsthand. And so you're getting the information from someone else who probably didn't live when the event happened, who got it from somebody else who may have lived, who got it from somebody else who probably lived. And so it's a game of telephone. If you guys remember the old telephone game where you're talking to the thing, and by the time you're talking to somebody's ear, you tell somebody something. By the time it get to the 30th person, it's nothing like it started off from the original person. So again, there is absolutely zero proof of any of this stuff. I've been doing this for a while now, and I challenge people all the time. I say, give me if you doubt what we're saying, give me any kind of non-biblical evidence and proof of the stuff that we say as being true, and I will do the research on it because I've already done the research on most of the things that people are going to come up with, and I will come back to you and prove to you that it is not real. And so I've put this challenge out to people all the time, and I'm yet I don't know, I've been doing this at least 6-7 years now, and I'm yet to get anybody to come back to me and say, okay, here's the evidence, and to prove me wrong. There was absolutely zero evidence of any of this stuff. And I think um, that's the foundation of your faith. If you're a Christian, it is. We talk about other things being the foundation of the faith. This is absolutely 100% the number one, the foundation of all foundations of this faith. If there was no resurrection, if the resurrection didn't occur, if the crucifixion now, and I think I mentioned this before. We've talked about this before. There are historians who believe that a person that fits the description of Jesus lived, right? So let's get that straight. So I'm still up in the air with all the research. I'm not sure if that was actually a Jesus that lived, but there are historians who believe that he did, that a person that fit the description did live, not in the divinity of Jesus, or not in all these miracles, but just a person who kind of fit the description lived. All right, but remember this: crucifixion was the common punishment or the common way of putting criminals and thieves to death during that period of time. Jesus being crucified, if he did exist as a human being, was not out of the ordinary. It was common. It was common. So it was nothing out of the ordinary. So that could have been a man that fit the description of Jesus that was crucified and killed. What we're talking about is the resurrection and him becoming the divinity, the God, like the part of the Trinity, a God himself. That is what we're talking about when we talk about Easter and the proof, no proof of all of these things, right? And if you talk to many of the historians who believe, and these are secular historians who believe that there may have been a Jesus, they will tell you their belief is not based on the evidence. It's just based on this is how they feel about it, or based on the information, or based on the fact that so many other people believe it. But they would, if you ask them for the evidence, they would tell you, well, there's really no hardcore evidence for them to believe this. They just some of them just choose to believe. So yeah.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. When some people they just say, "Well, I choose to believe," and that's just their belief. They're a believer, they trust it, and that's just it. And like I said, we're not here to deconvert anybody. We're just here as a gathering place for those who have thought for themselves, and they refuse to just believe something at face value. They choose to dive deep and not accept what somebody tells them as fact and truth. Another book I just linked in the comments. Of course, we've talked about two books so far. Most importantly,
Uh-huh.
Brother Willie's book, From Saved to Sane: My Journey Away from Christianity. I have that in the description of this video. But this book here, I purchased back in 2019. It's called African American Holidays. Now, yeah, I know, we call ourselves foundational Black Americans now, but this one here is African American Holidays, and it talks about how, or it defines holidays for us that we should observe as Black people here, not just, okay, well, since majority of the country is doing this, then we're going to have a copycat, a subverse. No, it's not about that. It's not about always going out to buy something and to show off, especially in this age of social media, where if it ain't on the gram, it didn't happen. So this book actually breaks down what this book, Ceremony of the Seasons, that I read from. It talks about Easter as well, and I'll link that over in the chat. It's called African American Holidays by James Anige. So make sure you pick this up. I go to this book every year. I'm like, okay, what should I observe? What should I celebrate about my people, and make it a ritual? And we talk about rituals. Some chick named Star stated she knew it was Easter time because she was getting the kitchen burnt up, and so was I. I think I still have like some scars on my neck. And so yeah, some of the rituals, when you ask people, why do you do this? You know the truth, you refuse to accept it, you just keep doing it. They push it off to, we do it for the kids. Can you talk to us about some of these rituals, and can you tell us like some of the rituals you had coming up, and I'll throw out some as well that's just really, it's, for lack of a better word, it's just mindless. It's just, why
Yeah.
are you doing this?
Yeah, I think we so let me back up a little bit. So Taisha and I, we're doing this. We're not, as she said, we're not trying to deconvert anybody. What the purpose of this, what we're doing is, and why this is important, is that especially for our people, African Americans, um, I want us to be able to think critically about why we do things, why we are part of things, why we celebrate things, especially with religion. And the reason why is because religion has such a strong hold on us as a people. It is, we I tell you all the time, I say Black people see their entire life, run our entire life through the prisms of biblical scripture and what we think is right according to the Bible and God and our belief system, more so than any other group. So if we're going to do that as a collective, we need to be able to think critically about why we're doing it, and just not do it because here is, my mom did it, my grandparents did it, or whatever. It's just something that we do in our community. And I think, secondly, it's important for us to create this safe space, because we're not the only African Americans that feel the way we do. I mean, there's a lot of us out there, but because we're always inundated in every arena of our life with believers, and just people assuming that you are a believer, we tend to believe that there is not a lot of us out there, a lot of us non-believers, but there are. And so we wanted to create this safe space so that you guys can come to, make comments, have questions, dialogue, laugh, whatever. And hopefully this platform, this safe space grows and provides for people area they can come and discuss. Even if you're not fully, a non-believer, or you just have questions. Again, we want to create this safe space. So Easter is a good, is the best place I can think to start, because it is, again, the foundation of what we do. Speaking of the rituals, my stepfather, who said he believed in God growing up, but he was never, he never went to church. The only time my mother could convince him to go to church was on Easter. And so he and I grew up in the 70s and 80s. So my stepfather would put on his platform shoes about this thick and his bell-bottom suits that he only wore funerals and Easter, and he would, go to church with us. Drunk as on the way, because he always got drunk on Saturday nights, smelling like gin, going to church. And so that was one of the things that,
Oh
I didn't necessarily,
wow.
we didn't really get along. So I didn't, it's not, I can't say I look forward to that, but it was just something that I remember. We also had to go Christmas shop. I mean, Easter shopping. We didn't have a lot of money, so we would go to the Goodwill or some of
Mhm.
these other places and get, suits or clothes or shoes, whatever. But you had to be clean for Easter. I mean, it was the one time you had to
Show
be clean.
out.
So if my mother was, if she was going to splurge on some clothing, it was for Easter, right? Splurge on Easter. So we got dressed up for Easter. But I think the thing that I hated the most was probably the Easter speeches. I mean, you had to memorize the speeches, and God forbid you don't say the speech right, and you get embarrassed, and it was just the whole spectacle. Everybody in their bright colors, and then you go somewhere and you eat a bunch of food that's not good for you, and it's a total spectacle. If you're really young as a child, when we all were really young, we got a chance to participate in the Easter egg hunt, which I don't even understand. It makes no sense other than the fact, as you said, Taisha, we're doing it for the kids, right? So Easter kind of turned into kind of a pseudo Christmas. Everything was for the
Yeah.
kids. You got Easter eggs, you got the Easter baskets. Everybody remember the Easter baskets that you would get?
Yeah.
Like we would get the Easter baskets and look at them to get the candy or whatever
They're
present was in
already
it.
in stock
So
at Walmart and in Walgreens. They have them all lined up on top. They still
yeah.
do it.
So and I never, as an adult, I mean, I stopped any kind of practice of holidays when I became an adult. And I never really was really into them even as a kid. I mean, Christmas we got toys, Easter, but I don't do any. I stopped doing even before I deconverted. I never was really into the holidays for whatever reason. But yeah, but the clothing, the Easter eggs, the Easter bunnies, the Christmas speeches, and the people that it's almost like I think one of the things I talked about my stepfather going to church, but if there were people who I only saw once a year. Like, I mean, I didn't even know if they were still alive until Easter, and they ended up being at church, right?
They
And
came out
so
of
it was just weird.
hibernation.
Yeah, they came out of hibernation just to get dressed up and go to church on Easter, and it was one of those things. I mean, literally, it was people that I didn't. I mean, the church. If the pastor wanted to get he knew that Easter he would get a huge offering. I mean, he would get a huge offering because you had the church was packed, and you had people that hadn't been to church in years, and you had to bring in a special minister, or you had a special Easter, Easter sermon. It was always the same Easter sermon, but yeah, it was one of those things. So a lot of pomp and circumstance, and just a lot of just, it is what it is. We all grew up, those who grew up in the faith. Easter was a big day. I mean, bigger than Christmas actually. So yeah, Easter's a huge day. So in a few days, you'll see people dressed. You'll see the suits, and I need to go somewhere and hide out somewhere and watch. I need to go somewhere near a huge church, mega church, and just watch the outfits go in and come out and go in and come out. So just to kind of remember how it was.
Somewhere, somebody is matching their outfits. I'm sorry, my phone. So somewhere somebody is matching their outfit to their face mask. They're gonna be sharp from face mask to toe.
Oh yeah, oh
Shout out
yeah.
to shout out, like everybody here is so ironic, it's so funny because y'all just don't realize how much of our accounts are the same, because I wrote down some rituals, some things to bring up. We do it for the kids. Shopping for Easter shoes, like I for one am so happy that Payless closed down, because oh my gosh, those shoes were terrible.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. But and so the black shiny shoes, I would always scuff them, and then I knew the trick was to get some fingernail polish remover, and get the scuff off so they look new. But I was like, my mama whipped my butt. I was like so nervous. We talk about the clothes. Oh my gosh. Now one thing is good. If you like have coming out of winter, yes, we were in our heavy clothes, and our clothes from last year do not fit. So one thing I look forward to was like the spring or summer clothes layaway. I look forward to that. I'm like, yes, I get some new clothes, get some bright colors, stuff like that. So that's one thing that someone can do, if they decide, okay, I won't observe Easter, but I do want to update my child's wardrobe. They've been in the heavy clothes over the winter. They grew out of their stuff from last year. Get them some updated outfits, new clothes and stuff like that. Celebrate spring season that way. Someone else mentioned, if I could find that comment real quick, and I'm
While
like,
you
wow.
while you looking for that, let me address this. So
Patent
we
leather,
talk.
there we go. Patent
Yeah,
leather
patent leather
shoes.
shoes. Yeah, we had talked about this before we got on, but the
Mhm.
Ten Commandments. Somebody just posted about the Ten Commandments and other
I was looking for
Bible
that one.
movies.
Yes.
Yeah,
Watching the Ten
yeah. So
Commandments.
yeah, so I it's funny. So I'm flipping through the television Sunday, and the Ten Commandments are on. So I stop, and I'm just kind of like having just just these memories. And my wife, who I may have mentioned before, she grew up Muslim the first until she was an adult, and then she converted to Christianity, and then her and I both kind of deconstructed together. But she mentioned that she had never saw the Ten Commandments, and I said, "You got to be kidding me!" I mean, it's a ritual in Black Christian households, probably white Christian
Mhm.
households as well. But we watched this
Right.
this 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 mega movie for years. I mean, every year we watch this. Every year, and as you get older, is there you have more and more and more and more and more questions like, why did someone have to tell God what houses to skip over? You know what I'm saying? Why do we have
Right.
to? They have to be red paint or the goats paint or whatever above the door to pass over so
Mhm.
that he wouldn't kill that child, but he go and kill the other kids, right? The Egyptian kids,
Right.
right? It's just crazy. But that's a movie that we watched every single year. And I remember watching it this past, and I had a friend of mine post on social media about Yul Brynner, who played Pharaoh. Your brother is long gone, dead and gone. Great actor, but it was just seeing those faces and Charleston Heston playing, I think Moses in the movie. So it's just crazy. But yeah, it's one of those things too. We always gather around the television and watch, the Ten Commandments and being so in amazement of the wonderful things that God did, while we overlook all the heinous things that He did, killing the people,
Mhm.
the plagues, on the innocent people, and
Depressing.
all the things. Yeah, all of that, right? So it was just amazing. But yeah, that's one of those things to the Ten Commandments. Um,
I never watched
Somebody
it.
said they
I
never
just
saw
know
it either. What? Y'all never saw it?
I never watched it start to finish because every time I saw it, it was on, antenna TV. So I wasn't fixing to sit there with all the commercials. I saw it was on. Then you get bored and go do something else. You get hungry, you fall asleep. You go. I've never sat and watched it. I won't do it. I can't do it.
Yeah, it's long. If I remember, because I haven't watched it in years and
Hmm.
years, but I think it's 3 or 4 hours long. I mean, it is long. The original
And
version. I
that's
mean, it is long.
yeah, that ain't even counting a commercial. So with the
Hmm.
commercials, it's about five easily. So I'm like, nah, I'm good. I'm good.
Yeah, so it's long. But at the time, I think when it came out, it was held as a masterpiece,
Mhm.
a cinematography masterpiece with the way it was done. And there's some, the special effects. I mean, if you look at them now, it looks all corny, right? Because we're so
Mhm.
advanced now.
Yeah.
But back then, it was the special effects were outstanding. I mean, the part of the Red Sea and all of that kind of stuff. The burning bush, that kind of stuff. So it was one of those things that people like. I guess part of it helped it because it was the theme. Everybody was so
Yeah.
religious in the country back then, so the theme helped. But it's supposed to be one of these great movies, and I'm surprised when you look up some of the top movies of all times. I don't remember ever seeing the Ten Commandments in there, and I thought that it would be because one of those classic movies that people watch and talk about all the time. So somebody said the whole
Yeah.
kitchen smelling like what?
Smell like fried hair. You know what? I
Oh
absolutely
yeah.
since I shaved off my hair back in 2017, I cannot stand the smell of flat iron hair. I cannot do it. I have some cheat irons in the other room. They're brand new, but it doesn't matter what I do to my hair. It's just, I'm like, you know what? Straightening my hair is not for me. And I uploaded a video, I think it was last year, about when I went to go get my hair pressed and my hair smelled like, I'm not saying I ever smelled them, but it's what I imagine, bowling alley shoes smell like. I'm like, this is horrible. I have to wash that stuff straight out. So yeah, anything with frying our hair is not what's up.
Yeah, I remember that smell in the kitchen. My sister
Ugh,
getting her hair straightened and coming in, and
ugh,
the burn marks on the back of the neck or behind the ear or whatever because
those
she
those
got hit.
those pink
Yeah,
stripes. I
yeah,
just
but you,
posted another link for two edition. Well, just one, but it's for two books by Dr. Barashango. I want to say this book here, the yellow book, this is one of the first books I picked up when I started, getting my right mind together. And I flipped through it and saw some stuff on different highlights. I'm like, wow, I really want to read that. And I had to find this book in Virginia. Shout out to our brother brother Brett Trayor at Positive Vibes in Virginia Beach. That's where I got this copy from, and I think I got this copy as well. But yeah, I purchased from him. I believe some of our booksellers, they also have Amazon stores. And if I could talk about that real quick, some people are like, I don't support Amazon and support local businesses. Well, you know what? Some people like our brother here, he doesn't have a store. He has his book on Amazon. So you are supporting, authors, self-published authors. So don't just think like, oh, I'm going to Amazon, I'm giving somebody else the money. No, you're giving the author the money.
Yeah, absolutely.
Another
When
book.
you're giving us the money, I'm sorry, and you're helping us to get notoriety so that other people can come. Because Amazon has its own, customer base without, they don't go
Mhm.
nowhere but Amazon. So the more our books are purchased on Amazon, the more notoriety, feedback those, and I've been intending to do this. Those who are here who've gone and purchased my book, first of all, I totally appreciate you so much. And I ask if you guys have an opportunity, if you purchase the book, please leave a review. Please leave a review because we the authors, we need those things to kind of push our books up. But you'll be surprised how um, a funny story. I got an email the other day from a woman in Canada as part of a religious trauma organization in Canada,
Mhm.
and she asked me to be a speaker next year at the conference. And so I emailed her back and asked her how she found out about me. She said that somebody saw the book, read the book, and told her that she should pick up the book. And she read the book, or whatever, and then called me. But I'm almost sure this person being in Canada, I am almost sure that this person got the book off of Amazon because I don't know anybody in Canada that's bought the book from me directly.
Mhm.
So I'm sure they got the book off of Amazon, read it, enjoyed it. And so those kind of things happen. So now
Mhm.
I will be a speaker at a religious trauma conference
Oh
that they're having
wow.
next year. Next year, yeah, all because of
Okay.
the book and the book been on Amazon. So yeah, so please
That's
support the
what's up.
authors on Amazon as well. So we definitely appreciate that. But yeah, so I had to add that. So while I was thinking about it, so now
That is beautiful. That's
back to the
actually
topic at hand.
perfect. That's
Yeah.
perfect because too, us I forget who it was. I think it was brother Jay Shine Random. So he said he purchased a couple of copies, and that's one thing he does. He'll purchase a bunch of copies and send them out to people. I have some copies of some books that he sent to me, and then in turn he just asked me like, hey, here's a duplicate copy, send it out to somebody else. So yes, this is how we spread the information and
That's
share.
love.
So
That's
that
how we
is
do. Yep.
wonderful. Another book that I'll
Yep. Absolutely.
type in a second, I also use too is okay. I think about it. So we are a very close knit people. We enjoy celebrating. We have major accomplishments, and we're not meant to just live a life of solitude. We look for a family gathering. We look for a community. So one of the things that we can talk about or suggest, we're not just saying like, hey, if that's the only time that your family get together is to go to the elders home and celebrate and fellowship, do that. Okay, don't just alienate yourself. If there's no drama there and you're able to just enjoy each other's company without other stuff coming up, you may not be able to come in there and talk about the things that's in this video, but if that's what you want to do it. But I will also suggest this book here. This has gotten me through a lot of you know situations where I'm like, okay, I don't really observe that, but I'm going to just take my mind and go to a happy place and find a reason to establish a constructive, get together. Make sure that when I'm around others, it's pleasant, and everybody gets something out of it. Black Family Rituals, and this is by Edward Sims and Thomas Gale Snowden. This book is really good. I'm going to do another video where I want to really go into rituals for our people because I think how we get sucked into observing other people's holidays, their cultures, and wanting to be like them. We have our own culture, we have our own rituals, we have our own celebrations, and once they see us observing and doing our own thing, then they want to come in like, oh, Juneteenth for everyone, and stuff like that. So really take your power and claim and make and celebrate your own holidays and establish your own rituals. So this book here, I'll put a link before we leave so you can go pick that up. This book is so important. A ritualistic life based on your culture and your people is great. Before we move on to that, brother, do you have anything? Because I want to show this poster that that I brought out for this video. It's kind of heavy, but I just want to show this poster.
Well, we can. What you were just talking about, speaking about, it was a great lead in to what I think should be. We're kind of in this discussion with this, and we're talking about why we have such a connection with what we call the passion of the Christ, his death and
Brother
resurrection
Willie, I'm not
to
sure
us,
what's
right?
happening,
And so,
but
but you can show
your
you're talking about
speech and
because that's
your video is lagging. So I'm not sure if you're aware of that or if I'm coming across as lagging and broken as well. So I just want to let you know you may have to repeat that.
okay. Can you hear me now?
Yes, I can hear you now, but before it was real slow
Okay.
and broken up.
Okay. So what I said was we can, you can show the poster, and then I want to kind of end on why we as African Americans, the collective, have such a connection with this, what we call the passion of the Christ, his death and resurrection. And then we pay no mind to what our enslaved ancestors went through, and from the transatlantic slave trade all the way up to present, and especially those years here, Jim Crow, slavery, the lynchings, and all that kind of stuff. How is it that we're so passionate and so emotional and moved by what someone supposedly went through 2,000 years ago? That's not even DNA connected to us, biologically connected to us, but yet we don't have that same passion and that same emotion about people who are direct descendants of us. And so I kind of want to end on that, but you can show the poster first if you want to, and then we can kind of end with that.
Okay, not a problem. Like, I have this poster, and I know for some people, okay, viewer discretion may be advised. Okay, so you may want to turn away. But when I think about this weekend and how some people, they start crying over the passion and they're crying over, Jesus sacrificed himself, and they get so moved and worked over about it to the point where they'll get, you know, the cross. To me, when I see it, it's a crime scene. It really is a crime scene. Like, I won't wear a chain that has two cars hitting each other head on. I'm not gonna have on a house that's on fire. I'm not gonna do those things. But this poster here, I'll keep it at a distance. Wait a minute, where's my camera? There we go. So this one here, it talks about, it says, never forget our Black Holocaust. Okay. And
Mm-hmm.
people, do not forget, these are the people who sacrificed themselves for us. These were the people who, died, here, their blood is here. There was there's actually a few places on this map where lynchings occurred. I drove through these areas, and it's like, wow, this is real. I can't relate and get down with, the the crucifixion. I can't get down with that because it didn't happen. It does not affect my people at all. This affects my people, and it still affects us today. So that's just my thing. I won't be all teary-eyed and crying and, oh, he rose. To me, it sounds like the original Hangover movie. Somebody went through some stuff on a Friday, then they pop back up on Sunday, like, hey, like nothing happened.
Yeah, it's weird. I've never worn a cross. I just, I know the history of the cross, where they got it from, all of that. But even prior to that, I just never felt right wearing a cross. If my mother had been shot, and my mother passed in 2017, but if the result of her, if she died from gunshot, I wouldn't put a necklace around my neck with a gun on it with her, a picture of her body on it, right? So that's something that but nobody wears crosses like Black people do. I mean, every segment of our community, people wear crosses, from the rich people to the poor people, from entertainers to just regular Joe Blows. I mean, we see it all the time. I mean, almost every Black person I see wearing a cross. But like you said, if there were at some accounts from the beginning of the transatlantic slave trade all the way through, slavery and all of that, there's an account that somewhere around 60 million, of our people were slain and killed. 60 million, right? If we look at just the middle passage and traveling from them taking us from west coast of Africa to the islands and dropped off some of us here in the States, our people in the States, anywhere between 10 and 12 million bodies, people, human beings lost, right? Um, but yet, I hardly ever hear the average black person speaking about that in those terms. My mother was a sharecropper, right, in North Alabama. She picked cotton. You talking maybe 2 generations, 3 generations from somebody in our family being an actual slave, right? Um, and so that kind of stuff, when I hear black people crying and becoming all emotional about Jesus Christ. I remember when the movie The Passion of the Christ came out with what's the guy's name? I can't remember. Mel Gibson. I remember hearing black people become so emotional about this. And I haven't been to church in 7 years, 5 years, or whatever. But I know it's going to happen again. I know it's going to be people in churches across this country, black people in the church across this country, who are going to become emotionally beside themselves about the so-called death and resurrection of this mythological, character, but have no emotion whatsoever for their ancestors that died in horrendous ways, who, by the way, suffered way more than any Jesus character ever suffered. Imagine spending 30, 40, 50, how many ever years you lived in slavery. Imagine seeing your kids ripped away from you, taken away from you, and given a soul to someone in another state. Imagine, as a man seeing your wife raped repeatedly, or even as a woman seeing your husband bucked or raped, right? Remember the lashes, the lynchings, the beatings, the mistreatment, just all of that our people endured through a lifetime. It's almost like the ones who died, kind of was better off because they didn't endure all of that. But because our people endured that, some of them endured that and went through that, is the reason why we're here today. So we started off by saying, from a topic, from the title of this is, I always said, who really died for you? Ain't no man, ain't no blonde hair, blue eye. I don't care. Middle Eastern guy on the cross died for me. Who died? The people who died for me are my direct descendants and my ancestors and the people around them that helped to keep them to survive so that I could be here today. Those are the people that died for me. Because remember this, understand this. Those people went through all of that. Our ancestors went through all of that. And the one thing that all of them thought about all the way through that is that at some point through the history in the future, our kids, grandkids, great great grandkids won't be in the position that we're in right now. That was the only thing that they had. That and the promise of things are going to be better when you die and get to heaven, right? But as they existed here on earth, the thing that kept them going was the fact that I have to keep this bloodline going. So that somewhere down the line, there would be a Taisha and a Willie who's on the internet and doing the things that they're doing, talking about this and remembering us. And it boils my blood when I hear our people being dismissive of the things that our people went through for so many years, generation after generation after generation after generation after generation, and what we're continuously going through. So it's I can really get get upset about it much because I know what this holiday means. This holiday, as Taisha says, I know what this holiday means to our people. But then we're so dismissive and so forgetful, and so we don't even acknowledge in a lot of cases what our people went through. And it's just amazing to me that we're so and I know the reason why we are detached, but we are in the internet age. You don't have to be detached anymore. The information is out there. The information is out there. Other cultures, somebody white, they can tell you that they're Italian, they can tell you they're all of that, right? If they're Polish, they can tell you about their Polish ancestors, French, the whole 9 yards. We are so detached, but now it's at the point where we are willfully detached. Before, we just couldn't get the information, or we didn't know about it, or it was hidden from us, or we couldn't get to it. Now we can, and we still refuse to. So that makes us willfully detached to our history and our people. And that to be willfully detached from our people and what our people went through, and the reason that we're here today. And somebody said, right, lynchings still exist today. Absolutely. I mean, lynchings just doesn't have, I mean, there are actual lynchings, but there's also, murders by gun or whatever by people against us that are called considered modern day lynching, right? So, we just, I wish that if I had one, one wish, it would be that our people collectively was more aware, um, and more understanding, and more, wanted to know more about what our people went through, and celebrate our people, as opposed to, crying and flipping over benches in church because, this so-called Jesus character died and was resurrected. So
Shout
that's
out.
kind of my little soapbox for today.
And you know what? It was beautiful. It was perfect. Shout out to brother Melanin Antonio. He's showing support over from the Twitter space that we have. Brother Willie, you gotta get over there in the Twitter space. Like Twitter space is what's happening. You know.
I'm on Twitter. I don't do a lot of my religious stuff on Twitter just yet because I still do other stuff. But I will be. I
Yeah.
have posted a couple of things, but I will
I
get
gotta
on
get over
Twitter.
there too. I gotta get
Twitter
over there and get
is
brave because I
I
think
love Twitter.
I've
Yeah, I
only
got to
done
do
like
more. I got to do
what is
more.
it? I done like 2 Clubhouse. I think like Clubhouse is a thing of the past now, but yeah, I did like 2 of those, and I'm like, okay, I think I got it. I think I got it, but yeah, Twitter Space is this the thing
Is
right
it a
now.
thing of the
So
past?
I think
Is
so.
Clubhouse a
Like a
thing of
lot
the
of people,
past?
Clubhouse got family. Y'all tell us Clubhouse is a thing of the past, but to me it got on my nerves because every time I chimed into a room or something, there's someone, let's reset the room. Please tell us, hi, I'm this, I'm 6 figures, I do this, I have that. And it's like, what's the point? Like, when you get to the point, like, shut the F word up. Like, okay, that's why you have a whole profile page to write your bio. I don't need to keep hearing this. I help people scale their businesses and, social media influencer, and I have a warehouse and I master drop shipping. It's like, okay, I just got tired of hearing people's bios and resumes. So yeah, they got on my nerves.
See, I avoid the only ones I've gone into have been the ones about atheism, agnostic, and religion
Mm-hmm.
or whatever. And so the thing about that, though, those rooms of Clubhouse is that you get people who think that they are the smartest people on the face of the earth, right? They got, they want to have all these, they want to talk about abstract subjects that don't even relate to the subject matter, and so that's
Mm-hmm.
one of the things. So a lot of times I'll just listen and I'll make a comment here and there. But yeah, so I do the Clubhouse every now and then. I get the notices if something that I'm interested in comes up, and I might go into one or whatever. But yeah, it just depends. But yeah, Twitter, we got to get on the Twitter. So I see that Melvin Charles and Gleason Jackson, 1967 FBA flag over your right shoulder. Okay.
Yes. I
Taisha.
got confused a minute. I'm looking at the screen. I'm like, I want to point to it, but I'm like, no, it's over here. It's opposite on my screen. So yeah, right there. We know who we are. We claim who we are, and I'm not trying to, you know, be an honorary this or assimilate to anybody else's culture. No, I have my own. I've done enough traveled. I've lived across the US. I even lived outside of the continental US. No one else tries to be anything other than what they are, and neither is the propaganda pushed to other people to dispose of their culture and adopt another one. No, this is it.
Yeah.
Black is beautiful, and
You
I'm
see my
black
hat?
until my last.
I,
Exactly. There we go.
always wear my hat. Yeah, it's so yeah, we and I can end on this. It's
And
just
wave
kind
in
of a
the
funny
yard.
story. This kind of
Mhm.
a funny story. And I think I might have told this before. So we talked about, I went on the rant about black people and how we don't appreciate our culture or whatever. But I think I said this. So my wife and I, we did a DNA ancestry test, this years ago,
Oh
probably
yeah.
6, 7 years ago, right before my mom died. Yeah, and so and this is more so for the audience. Um,
Mhm.
but we came back and we said, okay, I think I was like 87% African. My wife was like 88% African. And we were mad that we weren't 100% African, although we know that was not possible given everything. But we were so excited about being, that much African. And I remember my wife kept telling me, we should tell your mother and your sister. I said, they ain't really there yet. No, we should tell you. I said, no, they're not really there yet. And so my mother was always sick, in and out of the hospital. So one day we drove to Birmingham, and she was in the hospital, and we were sitting there talking to her. And so I just decided, I said, my wife had been, kind of bugging me to tell her. So I kind of said, okay, I'll take this opportunity to tell her. And I said to her, I said, well, we did we did a DNA ancestry test, and it comes out that we're 87, 88% African, and here are the countries within West Africa that our people are from. And my mother just lost it. I mean, my mother was very devout Christian, extremely devout Christian. She became a minister like the last 10 years of her life before she passed away. But she was really just angry. And she said, those people who did your DNA, they lied to you. You're not from Africa. You're from Alabama. Your people from Alabama, blah, blah, blah. And my wife just kind of just looked like, are you serious? And just kind of walked out the room. And shortly after that, we decided that it was time to go. But I bring that story up to kind of illustrate what I was talking about earlier about how we're so engrossed in this culture and the Christian, because don't disconnect westernized Christianity from white supremacy and what this country does. It's all interconnected. And so we get so indoctrinated into this Christianity, which indoctrinates us into the whole white culture of this country, right? And so my mother was so indoctrinated into that, she didn't want to hear anything that remotely had to do with Africa, and it was really hurtful. It wasn't unexpected, but it was hurtful to hear it. And a lot of people in her generation, Africa is some far off continent. Some people think it's a country, right? But it's a far off continent, a far off land that they have no connections to. And so that's really crazy to me. But yeah, so that's kind of a quick story, just kind of give an example, illustration of what I was saying earlier about us being so disconnected from our ancestors and from our roots, but so connected to this Jesus and Bible and Christianity, when it should be the opposite way, in my humble opinion. So yeah, so that's kind of how for me, that's how I wanted to end it is, let's think about, excuse me, I'm sorry. Let's just think about why we're doing these things, why we're celebrating this faith, why we're part of this faith. Those of us who have questions, continue your journey, continue to pursue, continue to read. There are, all sorts of resources available. YouTube channels. There are, books. There are seminars. There are speakers who are out here talking about these things, and there are a lot of people that look like us now that are doing it. A lot more people that are doing it. If you want to hear from our perspective. And then pick up some of the books that Taisha mentioned as well. But let's be more mindful of why we're doing the things that we do. That's all I ask. This is not to deconvert anybody. I just ask that we be more mindful. Let's think more critically of why we do these things, and let's not be afraid to ask the questions. And if we can't get the answers, let's go find the answers. Let's go search for the answers, and then make your decision about the direction that you want to go in. If you get all this information, right, and you get the correct information, and you still decide that you want to be a Christian or whatever, then that's fine. But at least you've been armed with the information, and at least you've made the decision knowing all of the other stuff, and you still decide, okay, this is what I want to do, and that's fine, and that's perfectly fine. Or whether you want to be Muslim, or you want to be Jewish, or whatever faith you want to be part of. But we got to do a better job of understanding the information, knowing the information, not just from a biblical standpoint, but outside of a biblical standpoint. We need to understand the history of religion, history of Christianity, why we're doing this stuff, the psychology behind it, how it affects us as a community, the good and the bad, and what the future looks like, because a lot of our kids are moving away from this. And so we need to understand why, so that you can continue to communicate with them, so there's not a divide between you and your child or your grandchild, because y'all have different viewpoints on religion or faith. But I appreciate everybody for being here. I'm good. Taisha.
That was absolutely great. And I'm glad that you mentioned the children, because, and I don't mean to show y'all this, like, this is the bra strap holder. I don't know why I'm just messing with it, but it's really important, because we are in a position where younger people are looking up to us. Believe it or not, like when my that particular set of my family, disown me, the younger cousins still follow me on social media and they still agree with everything I say. However, they're just in a point where they may not be strong enough to deal with, the family divorcing you. So,
Oh
they
yeah,
still
yeah,
reach out to me and like, hey, I agree. They watch my channel. They don't comment publicly, but they let me know that they watch. They agree with that. They have this question. I try to answer and talk to them. But our children are watching us, and this is the time where we teach them how to think for themselves, but also how to be an asset to our people in our community. So that's really all that I have, and I'm glad that D Cheney T brought this up too, because although what's happened to my computer? Okay. Although, personal Taisha does not observe, holidays and stuff like that. Business Taisha does, Taisha, as far as a businesswoman, okay, I will make that holiday sale. I will make that discount code because that's
yeah,
what's trending in the keywords for your business. So, we have to separate ourselves from it and, think about it as, okay, if I'm going to participate, what's in it for me? What's my return on investment? You can throw away all this money, buying imports from China and stuff like that, and buying fake chocolates that are really toxic. And also, too, if you go out and buy anything, Pete's, egg dye, chocolate bunnies, look at the ingredients. That stuff is toxic. I've been on a kick where I'm reading the back of the boxes on everything, and I'm like, I'm Googling what THBQ. Oh, side effects. I don't want this. So yeah, please investigate, what you're feeding your children during this time. That's really all I got. I thank everybody for being here
yeah.
tonight. This was absolutely great.
It's one. It's one question that I wanted to answer. Somebody asked, "What books are recommended for
Oh,
parents to teach their children?"
oh yeah, like I said,
Do you have?
I would say books if you wanted to teach them. Let me ponder. I'll be right
Why you?
back. Okay. So if you
Yeah.
want to
Why you
talk, I'm
think
gonna
that's?
go over
Yeah.
books. Okay.
So I think when I was young and really started having questions, I read books like and some of these books you might have to read with your child to kind of explain some of the stuff. But Before the Mayflower, ISIS Papers, those are like kind of intro books into the culture. I mean, those are big books, thick books, but with a lot of information. And then there's I read one recently, I think about 2 3 years ago, called um, God, what is it? Before the Dawn, which talks about just us and our evolution as human beings from that standpoint. But any books, you some of and it depends because some of the books are really advanced and they talk about other concepts. But I think I will begin with something like Before the Mayflower, maybe ISIS Papers, but definitely Before the Mayflower. It's a huge book, there's a lot of information in it. But that'd be one that I would start with. I think, and I'm just not doing this to plug but I think my book is a good book because it's an easy read. It talks about some current event stuff that happened. That happened recently because I wrote this book uh, over the last 3 or 4 years. So your child may be able to identify with some of the things that happened. Plus, it talks about things that are currently going on in the church as well. So again, your child may be able to identify with some of the stuff, and it's not heavy stuff like that. So yeah, but I always tell people to begin with like Before the Mayflower, and you can do some research. And some of the other books are kind of really heavy that we've at this point. For me, the books I'm reading are extremely heavy, and I think a little bit much for kids. But Before the Mayflower, the ISIS Papers, books like that are good. So
I thought that I muted this. I hope I didn't say like any bad words under my breath and all like that. Okay, when you talk about books, my son at the time I had my son and I also had bonus children at the time, and so it was important that as I was coming into, my right black mind that I bring them along as well. And so pretty much whatever lectures I watched, it was watched in the living room. I didn't like watch on my phone or watching the car. It's like, look, I'm watching this, you can hear it. And they come in, they sat down, they listened, they retain information, they were hungry. I think I brought home Hidden Colors 2. I brought that home and they were glued. Like we had so much anticipation for Hidden Colors 3. I think that dropped right before I went to Hawaii. So yes, we loved it. We loved it. But if you want an author who she is just amazing. I haven't seen anything that she has put out recently, but this sister, I have her entire catalog right here, just about. And I spoke about her before. Her name is Angela Freeman. And I did a video on her book here called God's Gift: How to Be a Good Black Woman to a Strong Black Man. This book just changed my mother freaking life. Like, I absolutely love it. Like, I actually give this book to sisters as a bridal party gift. I just love it. It's absolutely great. So get this book for yourselves, brothers. If you have a sister, get this book for her. Like, this is just great. This is wonderful, and it just supports building a black family. But she has, oh my gosh, a bunch of books for children. One here is called Sankofa Superheroes, and it changes from like, okay, your superheroes, because when in your mind you think about it, you see Marvel or DC characters. No, she has our superheroes right here, and these are our superheroes who walked this planet, who walked this earth, and that's why I'm making a point whenever I'm in a different city. I'm like, okay, what notable superhero is from here, and I visit their childhood home and things like that. So she has volume 1, and you can purchase all of these on Amazon. Just type in Angela Freeman. So this is volume 1. Volume 2, it just, my son loved the heck out of this, and because she has our great ancestor Mark Essex on the cover. And I love the artwork because she has him in his navy blues, but his colors are red, black, and green. So I love this book with all of my heart. I cherish it. My son cherishes it, and either I hope to pass it to my future children, or my future grandchildren. But this book right here is amazing. And the thing of it is, I was in the Navy. I heard nothing of Mark Essex until I think I met someone from New Orleans who asked me if I was related. I'm like, no, I don't think so. I looked it up. Wow. Okay. Mark Essex. Okay. He's on the cover. Sankofa Superheroes Volume 2. She also has a book on insurrection. Okay. And this is this was about different insurrections on how we freed ourselves. I'll tell you, it's about, it mentions Denmark Vesey, Gabriel Prosser. I was stationed in the Norfolk area, had no clue about Gabriel Prosser until I did some research. Nat Turner, whenever I drive up to Virginia, Southampton County, I did the tour. Shout out to Elder Khalifa. Speaks of that all in here. Okay, so insurrection is another one, and it puts faces and names on places in this country where our black footprint is. Another one here that helped us, at times we want to get away from our ethnic names. I grew up Taisha, what I'm saying, like, I'm black before I show up. But one thing that is most important is our names and the power of our names. So this book here, Omawali and the Butterfly, this is a beautiful story. I got this from my son as well, and it got him thinking about the power of his name. Although he has like the most American name possible, he chose his name as Bomani, which means warrior. So this is great. It gave him the power to name himself. Another book here that is beautiful, it's called a Bibi Fahodie. So just make sure, if you can, like, each one at a time, just pick up a book by her, and your child is going to cherish this book, because all through it there are characters that look like them. Okay, and they are in a position of power. They aren't begging, they aren't subservient, they are taking their power, and your child is guaranteed to be empowered after reading it, and they will continue to feel that time and time again. Another book I have here that was really cool, and this could be for a younger reader, but this is fine. This is called Lessons for the Watoto Book 1. Okay, so like I said, I purchased all of them because once my children, they finished one, they wanted another one, and because I had 3 of them at the time, I'm like, okay, each one, are you want to have your own books to read, and when y'all done, swap books, and there you go. So Angela Freeman is the only person that I can think of right now that has empowering books for Black children. So pick pick up her books on Amazon, as well as God's Gift: How to Be a Good Black Woman to a Strong Black Man. And that's all I got.
Yeah, I want to add one more. I was thinking about it. I think that over the last 10 years, probably the best book that I've read, and I've read a lot, especially to recommend to somebody. I tried to get my niece to read this. She's supposed to be reading this. I recommended it to her. She's early 20s, but I think it's a great book for teenagers. If you've never read, I can't remember. I got to find the book. It's around here somewhere, but I can find the book. But it's called Brainwashed. It is a absolutely phenomenal book. It talks about us, our collective culture. It's not really about religion per se. There's some things in there, but it talks about our collective culture, things that we have been brainwashed to do, and things that we need to break the habits of. And I mean, it's especially on point and relevant because some of the stuff in there, it talks about what we see in social media today, which affects our kids greatly. But it is a excellent. If you have a young person in the house, it's called
Is that by
Brainwashed.
Tom
Please,
Burrell?
please, please. It might be. I have another book by Tom Burrell. It might be, but it's called Brainwash. I gotta find it. It's in my library somewhere in the other room. But
Okay.
I read it about 3-4 years
This
ago,
one?
but it's that might be it. But it looks like that might be it. A different cover,
Okay.
but it might be it. But yeah, I think that's it. But yeah, absolutely, it is. It is. I gotta find it. When I find it, I'll make sure. But yeah, it is absolutely fantastic. It is. It is one of the best books I've ever read, especially about us and to help us, to benefit us as a
Mm-hmm.
collective group.
Wow. Or is it this one?
Yeah.
Hang on one
So yeah.
second.
So that's it for me.
This one?
Let me see. If you talk for a minute, let me go see if I can find it real quick.
Okay.
Just important. Hold
No,
on a second.
no,
One
no
second.
problem. Yeah, and that was actually a great question because we're like, okay, how do we teach our children, empower our children? And that was one of the great things with my son. Like once I came out of the holidays and was coming out of religion, you know, give them the truth and they will respect you. They'll take on to it. Like I said, when I told my son, like, look, pretty much whatever I told you, it was not true. I didn't mean to lie to you. And I thought he was gonna be like have a breakdown. He was like, okay, can I go play outside? I'm like, all right, cool. And that was just it. But I really commend everybody for taking a step and wanting to do better now that we know better. Prince asks, Melanin, have you tackled blueprints for Black empowerment? I have it right. I keep forgetting which shoulder because I'm looking at the screen right there. I have not made it to the back cover. It's just so much. Like I've actually started highlighting, and I don't want to fold the pages, but that book right there, it is, for lack of a better word, Bible. That's it right now. Just imagine had our people pick that up first versus that other book. It's scary to think about. What could be, but yeah, I hope more people pick up that book as well.
Yeah,
Brother William.
you were absolutely right. Brainwashed. By Tom Burrell. Yep. Can you hear me? Okay, because I
Yes,
can't
I
hear
can hear you.
you.
All right. Yes.
Okay.
Yes,
And
I
then
can hear you.
I picked up two other books that I thought were important. Slave Religion, outstanding book. That's you see the author. That's a good book to read too. It talks just the history of us and our religion and Christianity, not our religion, but how it became important to us. And then this is right here. This gentleman, I've heard him speak a couple of times. His name is Christopher Cameron. He wrote an outstanding book about Black free thinkers. Now, this will help. I think this is great for kids too, because it talks about some of the famous people in our history that we didn't know were free thinkers, agnostic, or just not believers, but they never really publicized it, talked about it. But Frederick Douglass, there's a couple of authors in here. So it is awesome. So it's a great book. The author is a relatively young guy. Um, he has an interesting story as well. But yeah, so these are three. I mean, I got tons of them, but here's the three books that I would definitely for kids. Black free thinkers. You be proud. So if they are free thinkers, let them know that it's all right. There have been some famous people that we talk about all the time in our history that were also free thinkers, brainwashed. Excellent. One of the top 3 books I've ever read. And then Slave Religion. Just give you guys a little history of that. So, yep, absolutely.
I'm sorry, it's still on mute. So yeah, that's what I actually will. I will sit here before I get up from this desk. I will go ahead and I will link everything in the description. I always say I'll do that, then I forget because I know you mentioned last week the cross and the lynching tree, and you mentioned something else too. So
Yeah.
yes, I would definitely
Yeah.
link those, and then I'll
God. No, I was going to say God of the Oppressed, which
okay.
talks about our relationship with with religion and why we feel so connected. And then the cross and the cross and the lynching tree, which goes into more detail about the psychology behind African Americans and why we want to
Mhm.
be part of this struggle and feel connected to Jesus and his passion. So it kind of fits with what we talked about today. But those are
Yeah.
also two excellent books. Both by Dr. Cone, I believe. I know the Cross and the Lynching Tree is by Dr. Cone. He kind of coined the phrase uh, liberation theology, which is
Mhm.
basically why we struggle, why we want to struggle. So he coined that in the 1950s or whatever. He coined that phrase. So those are two other really good books.
I think what we might have to do is take a week and we each split it and can kind of go through like our must have books. Like I'm telling you, my goal
Yeah,
is to build a black library, like some of my favorites stuff, books that you
yeah.
must read, and yeah, go from there because some stuff I'm like, oh my gosh, I had no clue, but there's just so much knowledge, so much to learn and read. One of the books that I just got, I haven't read it yet. Well, actually, this book is still in plastic. And also too, if you want, look for books at the thrift. I this book here has a Goodwill tag on it, so you can find some good books at the thrift. I found Tariq's books at the thrift. Whenever I see them, I buy them and give them to people. I'm like, oh no, this just ain't gonna sit here for other people to read. I'm giving it to our people. But this book here, oh my gosh, I have to read this soon, and it is The Way It Was in the South, The Black Experience in Georgia
Ooh.
by Donald Grant. Oh my gosh, this book is like this, but I've got to read this soon. Oh my gosh. I
So I
cherish
got
this book as well.
So those of you who picked up my book, in the back of it, there's
You
reference.
list a lot.
I list a lot of
Yes.
book, and I want to just a couple of those that I forgot.
Hmm.
The African Origin of Civilization, outstanding book,
Yeah.
and then The Destruction of Black Civilization by Chancellor Williams, another really
I
great
have
book.
that. I have that book.
You have that? Yeah. That's
I
one
have
of
that.
that's one of my favorites too. That's one of my top 5
Yes.
as well.
Actually, I don't.
Yeah.
I don't have it. My sweetheart has it because it was so amazing too. Like he was walking through my other room where I have my bookshelves, and I
Uh,
decided he pulled a book and he set it down. I'm like, oh, where does this book come from? He's like, oh, I just pulled it. I'm like, take it with you. You can read it, babe. I'm getting my book back though, but
Oh yeah,
it's
that
great.
one I'm not gonna let that one go. That's
I'm
one of
getting
my
I get my book
favorite.
back. But
Get it
no,
back.
I was like, okay, go ahead. And I'm like, okay, sweetheart, I
Yeah,
see you. So yeah, it's great because having your book collection and people see what you've read, they get an idea of where your mind is.
where your
It's
mind is.
it's
Yep,
it's
yep,
it's a very intimate exchange. But yeah, you actually do list, all of your references. So if you want to use this as a book buying guide, you absolutely can. And
yep. And the
read
final
this
one that
book.
I'll mention, because someone had talked about it before, in the same lines with the ISIS papers and before the Mayflower. This is a classic, stolen legacy, the Egyptian
Hmm.
origin of Western philosophy, and that's a classic, along with in the lines of the ISIS papers and before the Mayflower.
Right.
It's one of those foundational books that you start with when you kind of start this journey. But this has been cool. This has been really great, and hopefully
Yes.
we've helped some people. We've given people an opportunity, a space to come to, so they can kind of express some ideas and some thoughts, or whatever. But hopefully, what Taisha and I did today really helped you guys, and hopefully, you'll pick up some of these books if you don't already have them, and then give us your suggestion of books, because I'm always
Hmm.
looking for more books, always looking for
Absolutely.
more books. So.
And if you are
Definitely.
in the greater Atlanta area, head over to Morrow, Georgia and support Nubian Bookstore. Our brother Mark is over there. And that's actually where I purchased um this 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 book here. And it's still in the plastic. Oh shucks. I'm sorry, I hit the dang on microphone. I'm sorry if that costs like the noise, but yeah, it's called Without Sanctuary, and I still have it in the plastic. I think I paid like $100 for this book, but yeah, this book here
Yeah,
is heavy.
he's great. He has a great store. He had a few copies of my book. Hopefully, they're gone. They're sold. But he has some stuff. If anybody on here, if you are Greek, part of a Greek letter organization, fraternities and sororities, the Divine Nine, he has a ton of paraphernalia and stuff over there as well. But has an outstanding collection of books. Outstanding. From
Absolutely.
Babylon to Timbuktu. That's a good book too. From Babylon to
I have that,
Timbuktu.
yes. And
That's a good
I
book as
actually
well.
found that at a thrift store in Port Orchard, Washington for $2. That's how I got my copy. I'll take a picture and I'll put it in my stories. Actually, I got it for $2 or something like that in Washington. So go to the thrift. You can find some stuff there as well if you know what you're looking for. Okay. That's all I got. I just want to say thank you to
That's
everybody who joined us live and who's going to watch the replay. This has been wonderful. But Brother Willie, before we go, can you tell everybody how to find you, what you do, and what anything that you have coming up that you want to ask for support and stuff like that?
Yeah, I just asked. Please go to my YouTube channel. Subscribe, please, please, please subscribe. From Saved to Sane, the number two, Saved, the number two, Sane, from Saved to Sane. Subscribe to that. I'm on Instagram under I think W.O. Cartwright. You can follow me on Instagram. Facebook, if you want to laugh at some funny memes, I'm under WCODL, and O'Neill is spelled Oneal. But that I've done previous to that. So follow me on that. And I mean, subscribe to that, please. Trying to get that built up. And if you want to purchase the book, you can go to Amazon, or you can, if you want a signed copy, you can cash out me. You can send me an email. You can cash out me. Um, cash out me at Willie Cartwright 1906 Willie Cart. You can cash out me 1999 and your address, and we'll get you a signed copy, or you can just get it off of Amazon if you like as well. But yeah, but that's it. And also I always say this, and I will always say this. Please support Taisha. Please support this sister. She is phenomenal. She is doing an outstanding job. Go to her channel, support her. Everything that she's doing, we need her. We appreciate her. We need more sisters like her in this space. So please, please, please support her.
Absolutely.
Oh,
Thank
somebody
you so
said the book
much.
is too close. Okay, I'm sorry.
Here we go.
Yeah,
From
you know,
Safe to Sane, my journey away from Christianity and why Christianity has been detrimental to the African American community. So that's it here.
it's a long title. The title is a
But
subtitle, but yeah.
it says everything there. So yes, thank you for your contributions. Thank you for your work. Thank you for supporting me when I was, just now starting to talk about this, trying to find my courage and talk about it. But I really appreciate you. I appreciate everybody in the chat, everybody who's going to watch, everybody who is watching. I really appreciate you because I do this for us. And it's also New Black Media Appreciation Month. So shout out to those who, help me stand on my own and, face off and do content like this versus the hey guys YouTube content that they want us to, so this is absolutely amazing. Well, that is all I got. Taisha, where to get that body cover thingy? I don't know which one body cover thingy. I don't. Put it in the comments, or if you're connected with me on social media, send me an inbox, and I'll figure out what that body cover thingy is. All right. I love y'all so much. And we will be sitting here pondering and also raising hell on Facebook. That's what I do. I'm
That's
gonna
right. That's right.
listen, raise some hell. So y'all can see me over there, find me over there, and I will catch y'all on the next video. Y'all have a great one. Know that I love y'all. Have a good night.
Good night.